Hello, I'm thrilled to be here and share my story with you. Inspiring women transforming science, such a timely topic and critical change makers a key. It's true that we've seen some gains since Rosalind Franklin's time and continued to see progress, especially for women under extremely difficult circumstances. But we still have a long way to go. The stats for representation of women in STEM remain rather depressing. In 2023, women made up only about 28% of the STEM workforce. This remains a global problem where the figure stands at 17% women in the European Union, 16% in Japan, and 14% in India. For people from racially minoritized groups, the numbers are even worse. According to the National Science Board, Hispanics make up 14% and Blacks only 9% as the STEM labor workforce in the US. Accessibility of STEM to people with disabilities also remains pretty bad. Only about 3% of STEM workforce is made up of people with disabilities. For too long, STEM has remained exclusionary. People from different backgrounds continue to be minoritized, shut out of science, ignored, and certainly not given credit they deserve for their research. I'd like to talk to you today about how that is changing and what we're doing in the government to help make that change happen. First, let me take a step back and tell you a little bit about me. My name is Asmeret Asefaw Berhe. I'm currently honored to serve as the director of the Department of Energy's Office of Science, the powerhouse and primary funder of fundamental research in the physical sciences in the US. Before I was nominated to this position by President Biden and then confirmed by the US Senate, I have been a professor of soil biogeochemistry at the University of California, Merced. My research lies at the intersection of soil science, global change science, and political ecology. And the work in my lab emphasizes how soil system regulates the Earth's climate. I'm especially interested in the dynamic two-way relationship between natural environment and human communities. I'm the first Earth scientist to lead the Office of Science. Today, I'll talk to you about my personal journey, what we're doing at the Office of Science to advance opportunities for all, and share some advice that's been useful to me in my career. To start with, I was born and raised in Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, a small country in the Horn of Africa. I fell in love with the soil science and overall science there. I love soil. That's a big part of who I am. After my undergraduate degree in soil science from Eritrea, I earned a master's in political ecology at the University of Michigan State University, and a PhD in biogeochemistry from the University of California at Berkeley. And since graduating from my PhD, I've been in the University of California system ever since, where I started as a postdoctoral scholar first at UC Berkeley, and then later UC Davis. Afterwards, I moved to UC Merced to start my tenure track faculty appointment about 15 years ago. And I'm currently on extended leave from my UC Merced position to be able to serve in my DOE capacity. And I'll tell you a little bit about the office that I'm leading right now. The Department of Energy's Office of Science is the #1 funder for basic research in the physical sciences in the entire country. We award grants and fellowships to more than 300 institutions. We steward 10 of the nation's amazing national laboratories, as well as 28 world-class scientific user facilities that include particle accelerators, light sources, the largest high-performance computing systems in the world, fusion research facilities, and so much more. We also fund and manage 5 nanoscience centers, 5 national quantum centers, and urban integrated field labs. Our core scientific research programs are broad and include advanced computing, basic energy sciences, biological and environmental research, fusion, high energy physics, nuclear physics, isotope research and production, and accelerator research development and production. It's big. It's big and it's interesting and it's so important. I'm very proud of our team at the Office of Science and all the great work we're doing. As I keep moving along in my career journey, one thing has remained constant. Very few, if any, folks that I interact with professionally look like me. This has been true since my time, especially as a graduate student at UC Berkeley and at other institutions. As a scientist, I've been asking why, and that has led me to be part of and learn about a lot more even scholarship and research in this area. The inequity we see in STEM is real, of course. There's no shortage of scholarly evidence for this. The playing field has never been level for people from different walks of life in STEM. That is a fact. And a lot of people have used the metaphor of a leaky pipeline, for example, to discuss how folks don't stay in STEM. But I have a slightly different idea, and I think that terminology of a leaky pipeline is not only inaccurate and incomplete, but it could even be damaging. I say this because the loss of people from minoritized communities in STEM is not an accident, or it's not a result of minor leaks in an otherwise robust infrastructure. It's a result of how too many people from minoritized communities face a hostile obstacle course as we make our way through science. There are many, many barriers thrown on our ways, and this makes it difficult to find success and even really want to stay in STEM. One study from a team that I was part of had shown, for example, that in the geosciences, for example, close to 50% of Black women and a roughly equal number of folks who identify as non-binary consider leaving STEM because of workplace experiences. I've tried to bring as much of this scholarship to my current job as possible. We are taking advantage of opportunities available in this administration and at this time to really move the needle a little bit at least. And we're trying to reframe the conversation in many ways. And just to give you a bit about, how we're taking advantage of this moment, this opportunity to not just diversify the scientific workforce right now, but to actually bring about lasting positive change to ensure that as stewards of public resources, we're ensuring that the resources we provide are serving people from all walks of life in an equitable manner. We're providing internships for undergraduate students, for example, or community college students, and so many other funding opportunities and resources for folks to join us in the work of STEM. We provide many technical programs, training grants, capacity building grants, visiting faculty appointments at our labs, where faculty can come to our national laboratories and do research with our researchers, as well as in the facilities that we have there. We've started special programs that we call Renew and Fair that are designed to broaden participation of people from different walks of life at institutions, and particularly those that have been historically left out of the US scientific funding landscape. And every proposal out of the, that comes to the Office of Science at this point, we've required that includes what we call a peer plan, a plan for inclusive and equitable research. And we are asking researchers to describe in detail the activities and strategies that they will use to ensure that the publicly funded work they conduct is actually inclusive. And it will not systematically leave out people from any walks of life. We're also doing a lot to reach out to emerging research institutions. For too long, a lot of government science funding went to very few institutions. Today, we're creating pathways for what we call emerging research institutions, the ones that receive, relatively speaking, small federal funding for research, which include minority-serving institutions and historically Black colleges and universities, and tribal-serving institutions, and other institutions serving small rural communities. We want these emerging research institutions and the communities they serve to all be part of the scientific research community in the United States. And we're making resources and mechanisms available to help with that. And we don't just bring in a minority serving institution or a partner institution to one of our labs or include them in one of our projects and call it a day. We're setting a clear path for them to contribute in a meaningful way to the work, to be part of the scientific enterprise. We believe a diverse and vibrant workforce is a must, is one that we have to continue to nurture. Particularly, we think that this effort to nurture and grow as a vibrant STEM workforce for the nation is an important part of our mission. And we're working very hard to accomplish that. So just to give you a bit of a more context and example, let me elaborate using one area that we're working on. And allow me to introduce what we call the energy earthshots. This is the Biden-Harris administration's solution to the climate crisis that we're working on at the Department of Energy. The energy earthshots are inspired by the Moonshot Initiative of the 1960s, when President Kennedy called on the nation to come together and send a man to the moon. Earthshots are like that, but they just focus on efforts needed to ensure success and access of promising climate and clean energy solutions. There are 8 of them, and at the Office of Science, we're supporting them writ large, funding the scientific basis for these critical areas. And one of the things we're doing is creating energy earthshot research centers and funding other related efforts and research related to that. And what these 8 energy earthshots that I'm talking about, they include areas such as carbon removal, so the carbon negative shot, clean fuels and products shot, enhanced geothermal shot, floating offshore wind shot, industrial heat shot, hydrogen shot, long duration storage, and the last one, affordable home energy. All of these are areas that we need to accomplish major breakthroughs in the foundational science and its large-scale application and deployment across multiple categories before they can become viable solutions to the climate crisis. And the goal here is to accomplish major breakthroughs across all of the 8 areas that I mentioned within a decade. One thing you'll notice when I talk about these energy earthshots is that we don't include things like solar or onshore wind clean energy generation. That's because solar and wind are somewhat mature technologies at this point. The energy earthshots focus in on new technologies, promising ideas that still have a long way to go, where critical knowledge gaps need to be addressed before their contribution to solving the climate crisis can be realized. And every single one of these energy earthshots are grounded in principles of environmental justice and energy justice. We're building a clean energy workforce and broadly a STEM workforce for the nation that reflects all of America, and all in America will be able to benefit from the energy earthshot research that we're enabling. And to take a little bit of a turn towards more personal things, I'm often asked, especially in conversations that may include early career people, to speak about how, what I think it takes to succeed in science, in particular as an early career researcher. And I mean, a lot of what I'm about to say also applies to really researchers at any level. And what I've told folks and what I like to tell folks when they ask me for this kind of a question is that to me, a big part of success as an early career researcher in a variety of fields of STEM will have to require that we take our time and learn some key skills in addition to the area within STEM that we're working on. We have to learn time management. We have to really understand the scientific enterprise, really learn about the scientific enterprise and how it operates. We have to, actively fight the imposter syndrome. All of us face this from time to time, but especially those from minoritized communities who don't find people that look like us in the environment, who can't see role models in the process in particular, or who may not get the support that we need. And there's going to be challenges, there's going to be setbacks. Experiments fail from time to time, and all of that, studies. And an important part of success in any kind of STEM or research career, in my opinion, is really important that we be persistent. We stick it out. We'll be willing to try again and again and again. And an important, community that has been foundational for my success, really and important, is in my network, my community, my friends, my mentors of different sorts. And so I think it's extremely important that we work to build a supportive community that celebrates us, that centers our needs when we need it and when we need support, and is able to be there for us. So be in charge of your own mentoring, and make sure to work to cultivate and maintain a community of mentors that could support you when you need support. And remember, all of us need support from time to time. And as we do this, it's important to keep also our eyes focused on the goal, to think ahead about what we would like to see in our own career trajectory, and network accordingly, and work towards that goal whenever we get an opportunity. And another point that I've spoken about quite a bit, which I think is really important, is that as STEM professionals, it's critically important that we know how to show and tell, if you will, tell a good science story, particularly about our own area of research. Communication is such an important part of growth as a scientist and researcher. It's fair to say that when I came from Africa, in particular for grad school, I was told I didn't fit in some of the institutions of higher learning in the US. I was told I didn't have the right pedigree to even be part of those institutions. And I certainly didn't see anyone who looked like me in those institutions. But what has made a difference for me personally was learning how to be in charge of my own destiny, learning how to be in charge of identifying the mentors that would be supportive of me, and help me through my studies, of course, and turning things around, if you will, and trying to be a positive force of change in my own community wherever I have influence and wherever I am able to. And with that, I will conclude and just say, make sure to watch what's happening at the office and the Department of Energy and elsewhere in the federal government. Through all of the government, we're taking this moment in history to make a difference on these really important areas that we discussed. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you today. I hope you all have a wonderful meeting. Thank you.